wonder if this is going to work. Trying things out with a different camera. Bumpy part of the road. Welcome to the Good Life meditation for whatever the heck day. What the heck day is this? I can actually look because I'm doing it. It's the 11th day of October 2016, and off to a rough start this morning. It's a Tuesday after a holiday on Monday, and then I had a holiday on Friday too, so 4 days off, and it's going to be a challenging week. And so I'll get more to that at the end when I do my preparation for the day. But not feeling so good. But I don't know if it's that type of not feeling so good that is the type that you that I sometimes have, that, you know, when I want to use it to say, well, maybe I'm not feeling good, maybe I should stay home sick. I'm not sick. I won't stay home. But I'm familiar with that feeling, right? So get into it. There's the observation of human rights. It's important that as we pursue the welfare of our group, improving the status of improving the well-being of our species and of our planet, and all the ecosystems within. It's important that we not throw the individual under the bus, that we protect their rights. And to that end, I lean on the United States Bill of Rights as a definition and a description of the rights that we need to respect. 2, three objectives. The first objective is the development and maintenance of sound principles. These are the 7 principles I'll get to in just a moment. The second objective is the cultivation of good emotional reactions when challenging circumstances rise before us. Like, for example, something happens with your spouse, unexpected challenge to the equanimity of the marriage. You know, well, what did I just say? Why use such big words? But I use those big words because it captures it right, you know? A marriage can have equanimity, kind of a balance to it. And you can have things that happen that disrupt that. Yeah, so it is the right way, it is a good way to say it. You know, a misunderstanding or a selfish moment or whatever the case may be that threatens that. And we can make it worse by reacting emotionally in such a way that compounds the problem, rather than simply trying to maintain a good emotional reaction. Sorry, I'm trying to think about how to get out. I'm kind of boxed in. The freeway's going to go over the guy. Here's a good example. The guy behind me is not quite leaving enough room. I'll give him a lot of warning here. Oh, he's backing up. And then I move over. There's a perfect example right there of what I'm talking about right now. You know, here I am, suddenly I'm driving along. I've got the equanimity of my drive, the composed emotions of the drive. Nothing's going on. And suddenly I find myself in a lane that's going to turn into a freeway that goes somewhere I don't want to go. And I don't see a way to get out in time. I hope maybe not in time to make that change. There's 2 things that could happen. I could let my emotions start to rise, get mad at the guy behind me who's not leaving enough distance between the car in front of him to allow for a merge. You don't sit here and get frustrated and you go, gosh darn you, whatever you're going to say. Or try to, continue breathing easily, think about the situation, and come up with a plan, which was to turn the blinker on and leave it on long enough for him to realize that I needed a little space, and that's when it worked out. And also to be ready for the fact that I may not be able to get off the freeway in time, and I may wind up going the wrong way on another freeway, which may make me late. And to reconcile myself to that possibility and accept that. That's what I mean by good emotional reactions. Going with the more mature and reasoned response rather than the gut emotional response. The third is the performance of good actions, just doing good things for their own sake. Ooh, man, it really does feel like a Tuesday. Here's another example, okay? Here's another example. I mean, I really don't feel good today. I do not want to be going into work. It's one of those days you drive in, you got this long commute, and you're thinking the whole time, wish I was retired. Wish I didn't have to do this. Maybe I could live in a bungalow in the desert and have very bare needs and do that. And I could run away with the emotions again. I could let the emotions make me upset. I arrive at work, resentful and upset. Or I could, which will impact the whole day, impact my coworkers, impact my job performance, and impact ultimately the result of the work that I do, which is actually I do an important social. I work for important social ends. Unlike jobs I've had in the past where I just worked for mainly to enrich the value of shareholders, I really do work for social ends now. It's very good work. And I won't do such a good job if I let this emotion run away. So instead, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it, just kind of keep, if I do say so myself, just keep my mind on the objective, which is to get to work safely, and to begin my work resolutely, and with a determination to move through the day, performing good actions to the best of my ability, despite my inner attitude. And that means putting on a smile. If it's not fully sincere, at least it's one that will do the job. And at the end of the day, I'll have something to be proud of, that I did a good day's work. I didn't run away from it, nor did I run with scissors, as I like to say, which is to adopt the upset and move through the day sharing that upset with everybody and spreading it around as a way of dissipating it away, giving it to other people to hold on to. That's not a very good way to handle these things either. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Anybody who watches this, we all have days like this. You just don't want to go to work. You don't want to go to school. You don't want to get up. Well, they pass, and then they come back. So, the third objective is the performance of good actions. Just doing good things. Pick up a piece of litter on the road. Give $1 or $2 to a worthwhile charity. Wipe up after a mess that you find in the kitchen, even if it's not your own. Offer a smile. All these things. Okay, let's get on to our 7 principles. The first is the principle of the atomic principle. The atomic principle simply states that the universe consists of bits and pieces which flow and change and transform, and that everything in the universe that was yesterday is something else today, and will be again something else tomorrow. And that all these things are ultimately composed of that energy, which itself is flowing and moving towards a dissipated state of entropy. I wonder if energy has entropy too, or if it's just matter. Interesting. Okay, 2, the principle of nature. Everything and everyone in the universe has a particular nature. And things and ones operate best when their activities and objectives are in alignment with their nature. So to that end, as I move through the day, I look at everything around me and everyone around me, and I try to identify what the nature of those things are. What is the nature of an automobile? It's to provide transportation, to provide some level of safety, to move after being turned on, to require fuel, to require service, and to periodically break down, especially if fuel and service are not applied properly or the driver does not operate in a safe manner. This is the nature of an automobile. So when my vehicle does require service, I'll take that seriously and have it done. And when it does break down, I'll recognize that that isn't something that's an exception to nature. It's part of the nature of the automobile. And I'll be more inclined to accept it and simply work through it. Likewise, the nature of people. My coworkers, my friends, my family, strangers. Strangers on the street whose natures are not apprehended. Maybe the part of the reason I'm so darn tired is I worked every day. Worked, even though I had 4 days off, I worked 2 of those, and the other 2 were very busy taking care of honeydew stuff and daddy-do stuff. So it was a tough hard weekend. Tired. Third principle is the social principle. Humans are social animals, and we need one another. And when we focus our attention on social ends, we're actually pursuing a very potent good, a potent form of virtue, and a very worthwhile end. 4, temperance. Temperance is the exercise of restraint when it comes to desires. And desires are really a kind of a form of emotion. We have an appetite that is not unlike, you can describe an emotional state or a rise of anger as a type of appetite in a way. It's an appetite for release. It's an appetite for revenge or for expression. And if we give into that and run away with it, we'll get ourselves into an awkward or even really bad situation. Likewise, if we give into and run away with our appetite for cupcakes or donuts or whatever the case may be, or fried chicken. Instead, if we can recognize when those moments come and exercise restraint in the consumption of our food and drink and work and play, as well as our emotions, our consumption of anger, consumption of lust, of passions of every sort, we'll do 2 things. We'll become stronger people through the exercise of that will, kind of like building a bicep up. Instead, you're building your will, and we'll also improve the welfare of our circumstance by having a more harmonious and better community. It's better to exercise restraint in all such things. That way you won't get overly obese. You won't get obese or become an alcoholic or engage in extramarital affairs or yell at your coworkers. Or I'm thinking specifically of something that happened this weekend where I was told the story of a coworker yelling at someone. The upset that caused to everybody, including him in the aftermath. What if he was able to control that emotion as it was arising? That would have been a better thing. Thus is temperance. That's why I have it as one of the principles. 5 is the great indifference, and which is nothing more than a recognition that the universe is out there with its enormous emptiness. And that we human beings spend a great deal of time filling our lives with constructs that give the appearance of meaning. It's almost like scaffoldings that we build all around us that protect us from the great indifference. And it's a funny thing because the scaffolding itself isn't the piece that protects us. It's the activity of doing it. There's so many scaffoldings we can make: work, school, relationships, even and a very powerful one is having children. Children produce a very deep sense of meaning for the parents and for the extended family and for the community. And as long as we rest our attention on their well-being and on the children, we can be very well distracted from the great indifference. But it's worthwhile to keep in mind about the great indifference, because if we forget about it, then we begin to take these things very seriously. We think that there's this meaning that we find is more than it really is, which is an ascribed meaning. It doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean it's not helpful. Okay, I get around this guy. Sorry. But it is what it is. It could easily be replaced with another form of meaning. And that's a tough thing to say, because it sounds like I'm saying that these very important things that we have, love, community, family, relationships, parenthood, all these things, it sounds like they're more arbitrary than objectively. We want to think somehow that these things are good and of their own right. And maybe they are when you measure them against the objective well-being of species and of the planet and of the universe. But I have a feeling that objectivity falls apart somewhere in the face of a universe that's moving towards entropy. It's almost a type of futility, temporary respite, retrograde motion of sorts. And that's probably the point that a lot of people would disagree and be not comfortable with what I'm saying. In fact, I've had people tell me that. They want to think that there's something more real to it. There's something. There really is a depth to the universe and to life that transcends our mere say so that that's the case. I haven't seen it. Maybe my eyes are blind. I'm sure that a lot of people would say that. Okay, I'm almost at work, so I better wrap up. The next is reason, which is the governing faculty. The force of effort, the mental gymnastics that allow us to ascertain facts, develop constructs of arguments, which then make predictions about the universe that we can then watch and measure to then reinforce whether our arguments are a good description of the facts, how the things work. And if not, then we can revise them. And if so, then we can hold on tentatively to that and describe that we found some truth, perhaps. Finally, virtue. Virtue is the purpose of life in this whole scheme. And it's nothing more than the pursuit of the objective improvement of well-being. Observations such as more clean drinking water, free, affordable education for everybody, access to communication, justice, healthcare, clean environments, protecting species, humanitarian endeavors, animal husbandry, compassion, all these things that we as a species, and I think other species as well, move towards, in their own way. A mother fox licking the wound of its baby. Parents trying to secure better education for their children. Communities looking for ways to make good mass transit systems, helping secure the well-being of the mentally, those who are suffering from mental disease, who may be living on the streets, mental illness. This is virtue, which is the purpose of life, and it's an objective thing that we can measure. If we agree that virtue is the improvement in well-being, then we can measure that objectively, and we can pursue that as a community. And virtue is achieved through a life where we recognize the transient nature of everything around us, the fact that everything has a particular nature, and that we live better in accordance with that, especially when we uncover our own nature and live according to that. When we live towards social ends, exercise temperance, recognize the great indifference, and use reason as the arbiter of truth. And there you go. The Good Life meditation for this day. Have a great life, everybody. I think I've already talked about the challenges I'm facing today. Now it's time to face them down and really do it in earnest. Take care.